Throughout history, various civilizations have questioned the shape of our planet, creating hypotheses according to their level of knowledge. Even today, scientists around the world question the truthfulness of the sphericity of the Earth, because even though it's presented as a truth, there is no unquestionable scientific evidence in this regard. Everything on which science bases itself are only evidences, and evidences are not proofs. In order to bring the light of knowledge on the true shape of the Earth, researchers of Daquila and Ziggurat's Technology Center joined with other scientists in an independent research that lasted 7 years, seeking scientific and definitive proof to demonstrate that Earth is indeed round or has another shape. Urandir and the researchers from Daquila and the Ziggurat's Technological Center evaluated all possibilities for the realization of the scientific experiments in order to find proofs that determined the real shape of the Earth.
We did dozens of experiments. We will only present 7, as it was enough to determine the real shape of the planet.
To what conclusion did the researchers arrive in relation to the experiments with ships?
With the unfolding of the experiments, we perceived that the optical instruments amplified the visual phenomena.
In the case of the use of Newtonian telescopes, in which its optics, which is of extreme precision, amplifies thousands of times the capacity of the human eye, could see things that we did not see.
This led to amplifying the visual phenomena we observed during the execution of the experiments. We deepened the studies, and we could determine that most optical phenomena, which are attributed to the refraction of light, called Fata Morgana effect, actually occurs by reflection. It is a reflective process of light on a surface with an angle tending to 0. With the observations we make, we have been able to promote a new physical theory that explains the Fata Morgana effect from a new optic, a new point of view. We call it the theory of optics applied to visual phenomena.
This conclusion helped us explain 3 phenomena that we know are illusions. Why the boat seems to disappear going down the horizon line, why first fades the hull and then the boat, and why when an observer is taller can see farther.
We conclude then that boats don't descend at the horizon, and that we lose the ability to observe them, to see them in function of an optical phenomenon.
With this experiment, one of the main arguments of the spherical Earth theory, that boats disappear on the horizon due to the curvature, is totally refuted. This is the first proof of the flatness of the waters. Among the long-distance viewing experiments performed with telescopes, the one with the greatest impact was at Lake Titicaca, where the team tried to record images at 110 kilometers. The site was chosen due to the low humidity of the air at certain times of the year, which is a prime factor for the result. With the telescope, the team was able to record images at a distance of more than 100 kilometers, which would be impossible in the theory of a spherical Earth, as the curvature would have a height of 237 meters, equivalent to a 79-story building. This experiment is yet another proof that the Earth cannot be a sphere. And the result of the experiment with radio waves? The researchers used directional parabolic antennas, where in the spherical Earth model, communication would be impossible, as the minimum obstacle would preclude this, since at the distance of the experiment, the curvature of the Earth would generate an obstacle of 3.84 meters in height.
We have connected.
Got it. We're with connection here. It's responding. The machine is responding. Returning. I'm having connection to your computer there. We have a ping back here. The connection is established. The signal that we wanted, we could scan there and managed to find it here. Communication was established. It has been proven that at this distance, we have been able to establish communication. We know that any interference in the way would mean not achieve communication.
This is yet another proof of the flatness of the waters, refuting the spherical model of the Earth. What about the geodetic curvature experiment performed on the buildings? Measurements were done of the bases and tops of two buildings, one in Torres, Rio Grande do Sul, and another in Natal, Rio Grande do Norte, 3,050 kilometers apart from each other. According to the theory of the spherical Earth, the distance of the measurements of the bases must be different than the measurements of the top, even in a few meters. But if the measurements are equal, this would show that the Earth has no curvature.
Thinking of the Earth as a globe, the initial expectation was that the measurements were different.
But when the results arrived, the base and the top measurements were the same, showing that the two buildings are leveled upright.
The identical measurements of the distance between the bases and the tops prove that between the two buildings there is no curvature, proving that the Earth has no spherical shape. In the experiment of the geodesic curvature in the water, 3 points were obtained with a high-precision GPS on the Tres Marias Dam in Minas Gerais, whose extension exceeds 70,000 meters.
We analyzed the data collected by the equipment, and all points show the same result, the same altitude, thus showing that the water in the dam remains level. These data overthrow the theory of sphericity, because according to this theory, the water should follow the curvature of the Earth. Only in a curve there is no level.
The three altitude measurements were identical, proving the leveling of the water, proving that the Earth has no spherical shape. And what is the result of the laser experiments? Did the team see the laser light on the other side?
As you can see, the two devices are communicating at a distance of 18 kilometers. We have successfully done an experiment today, and we are proving that the Earth does not have the format that science believes it has. So as we are at 18 kilometers, there is no water level difference from here to the other crew that is 18 kilometers away. It's exactly level. On this distance, there should be a visual obstruction by virtue of the curvature of approximately 6 meters, and we were able to get the signal from a laser cannon from the other shore at 18 kilometers on a little more than a meter from the level of the lagoon. This is the ultimate test. There is no curvature.
To guarantee the accuracy of the result, the researchers decided to conduct a surprise experiment.
We are with a telescope. We have a precision level, an optical level, with a topographer. We have a total station, which is a topography equipment that is used for measurements and level determination. So we are here 18 kilometers marked with a GPS on an island, on a point of Lagoa, 18 kilometers from the topography equipment there with the crew. So we put a light beam, and then the topography equipment can see the light at water level. The light placed on the water level can be visualized by the topography equipment that is positioned 18 kilometers.
This is unquestionable proof that the Earth is not a sphere, for the waters are level. And the result of the laser experiment carried out at Lake Titicaca.
We have already done the first tests, and the laser of team number 1 has already appeared here in the treetops that are on our side. Then the trees here have about 2 meters, 2.5 meters. So there we start directly discarding the hypothesis of the Earth being spherical, because we are 35 kilometers away from team number 1 in a straight line from end to end, on the lake, on lake level. And according to the theory of spherical Earth, that 35 kilometers should give at least 23 meters and 98 centimeters of Earth's curvature. So a light communication would be impossible, as we just have had.
But how could one project a laser beam from one shore to another, 35 kilometers away, if, in the theory of the spherical Earth, there would be a curvature of 24 meters in height, and the laser equipment was positioned at 2 meters high, parallel to the water level? This is yet another unquestionable proof of the flatness of the waters, which definitively overturns the theory of the sphericity of the Earth. Gravity is the theory that science considers as the main factor to keep everything in harmony on a spherical planet.
It does not exist. According to the experiments, gravity does not exist. From the fundamentals of nature, plumb and level overthrow the theory of gravity.
The plumb is an instrument used to gauge verticality. It is of fundamental use in civil construction to guarantee the verticality of the buildings. The use of the plumb is the only way to ensure that construction is being erected in vertical alignment. The level is an instrument used to measure inclinations and is fundamental to ensure horizontality. It's used extensively in the areas of civil construction, surveying, photography, and astronomy, among others. The most common model is the bubble.
Any construction has to have level and plumb, because if it gets out of plumb and level, it can fall. That house can fall. This equipment is a system of communicating vessels and is used in the laboratory to demonstrate the behavior of water leveling. In whatever position we place the system, the water that is inside will always search its level. This behavior of the leveling can be proven not only in laboratory, but we can prove this in field experiments in ponds, lakes, and the seas.
This is a micro version of what we find all over the planet: leveled waters.
By verifying that the water remains level, both in micro and macro environments, it's also verified that gravity does not exist, because if this force existed, the waters would follow the curvature of the planet. But then, what forces act to maintain harmony on a non-spherical planet? Researchers from Dakila and the Ziggurats Technology Center have concluded that among the fundamentals of nature, the four main forces that, acting together, hold us firm to the ground are magnetism, density, pressure, and light. Among the four MDPL forces, magnetism, in contrast to what science considers, is one of the strongest forces that act on Earth. It's the main force that keeps everything in balance, from the bonds of an atom to the Earth's magnetic field. One way to study the performance of the magnetic field of bodies is to perform a simple experiment where we transform into mechanical waves the kinetic energy produced by the magnetic field in an object. This can be reproduced by throwing an object into the water. Whatever the shape of the object, the waves produced will always be circular, as they are modulated by the Earth's magnetic field. Note that regardless of the shape of the object, the waves produced in the water will always have circular patterns. This happens because the waves in the water are being modulated by the influence of the Earth's magnetic field.
It does not exist. According to these experiments, gravity does not exist. Well, in a sphere we certainly do not live, because the physical behavior of the waters does not match the reality of the facts. And through the plumb and level, this theory is totally overthrown. Extinct.
The CTZ researchers collected information on the movement of the sun, the moon, and the stars in different parts of the planet. In this research, which lasted several years, images were recorded by cameras installed in all these places during the day and at night. The discrepancy in the comparison of the trajectory of the sun and the stars between the different points, when related to its geographical position in the current world map, allowed to generate a new geographical model of the continents. In this model, the continents present a size and position somewhat different from the current world map, having the North Pole to the center and the other continents around it. This new model was called Convex Earth.
We call it Convex Earth because the continents have a convex relief, starting at the sea level, raising to the highest point, and returning to the sea level.
According to altimetric analyses, all the continents present a convexity in their relief. According to the investigations, in the convex Earth, the magnetic field has the following layout, with the magnetic North Pole located in approximately the middle of the planet. Due to the magnetic field, anywhere on the surface of the planet, a compass will always point to the North Pole, as the South Pole represents its entire border. The magnetic field is also responsible for modeling the shape of our atmosphere, which takes the form of a plane convex lens. In this way, the atmosphere, formed by several gases and water in gaseous state, takes on the characteristic of a gigantic magnifying glass with a high degree of refraction, responsible for day and night. To facilitate the understanding and comprehending of the new model of the planet, the researchers built scale models of both the spherical and convex models.
We have been conditioned since childhood to accept that our planet has this round format. But if I say that there doesn't even exist a real image of our entire planet, to date, none of the space agencies of these institutions have managed to register an entire image of our planet. With all the technology and advances of science, this image does not yet exist. So how are they made, all those beautiful photographs we see on the internet, on posters, in films? This is very simple. Local images are taken, passed to a computer program, so they are manipulated, forged into a format we know today. This beautiful image, this photograph of the blue planet that we know, is nothing more than propaganda, just like many others we see daily. According to the research done, the calculations and measurements taken from our planet, this is not its format. The real format of our world is this. Just as the image of our planet is manipulated, the size and shapes of the continents also go through the same type of problem. They are very different from what we have custom to see on the world maps. Countries like Brazil or Russia, they gain land extensions much larger than are informed, which would explain so many miscalculations in land demarcations. Now, how do we come to this conclusion? It is very simple. If we take into account all the numerical data, all the measurements, the distances in the tropics, the meridians, the coasts, the extensions of land, and apply it on paper, taking all the details into consideration, all these continents suffer great distortions. Without exception, none of them stay out of it. Some, as I said, Brazil and Russia, suffer an increase in land, and others, like the United States, suffer a reduction.
During the surveys, strong evidence emerged of the existence of a new continent.
And what about the new continent that is far beyond our borders? We call it the Greater North. For those who are here in South America, heading north, so we call it the Greater North. With the help of Navy and Air Force officers, we were able to trace logistics towards the Greater North, towards Siberia, towards Russia. There were several factors that led us to perceive the existence of the new continent. With the launch of several atmospheric probes, equipped with cameras and other equipment, we were able to identify a territorial mass that is not included in our maps. It is not part of our current cartography. And, analyzing the images, mainly of the probes, we realized that it is part of a new continent, behind an immense layer of ice. After seeing these images, we directed our expeditions to the limits, where a human being or the autonomy of a ship were able to get. And we collected many evidences of dust on the ice, pollen, and other evidences that really brought us to the certainty of the evidence of this new continent. So there is no doubt that there really is a new continent, of new lands beyond the great mass of ice that impedes us to overcome. The research continues. We have not yet put our feet in this place. We only had observations from a distance, but we intend to get to this place as soon as possible. We installed equipment in several countries in different parts of the planet. And all these equipments recorded different situations, anomalies that made us think, rethink, about trajectory, and about what we learned about the Sun. Its size, its distance to Earth does not match what we learn. It does not coincide the realities of the facts. It is an anomalous trajectory, totally different. It implies strong evidence that the Sun is not a star the way we learn. It seems that it is much closer to the Earth than we think. Moreover, its trajectory is totally different. In several points, in several continents, the trajectory does not coincide with the reality. By observing all these anomalies around the world, we realize that there is a possibility that the solar system is totally different from what we have learned. It might not even exist. During these observations on the Sun, we noticed that the Moon has also a different behavior. Its trajectory is very similar to that of the Sun, and its size is also completely atypical. The impression we have of the Moon is that its size varies greatly, or its distance from the Earth varies greatly during its 28-day trajectory. There are days that it is closer, another more distant. It is as if its elliptic were totally within a different system of space out there, as if it were another reality. And because of the various anomalies observed in the Sun, the Moon and the stars, we determined that the Earth doesn't spin. It does not have the spinning motion. It is motionless. The mystery surrounding the Sun is so complex that we will continue our studies. We will continue to research because it is in our interest to unravel the mystery that surrounds our star. And what changes in our lives? Knowing the real model of the Earth changes everything. Mainly in the academic system. Schools will have to redo all of their programming from their school curriculum, geography, astronomy, mathematics, physics, everything changes. Everything we learn, the whole context, especially with regard to the model,